The sky looked normal that morning. A washed-out blue scattered with fluffy clouds and a couple of chirping pigeons perched on power lines. But the world shifted on its axis the moment Ice Spice went live on a glitchy, shaking livestream, holding a tattered folder labeled Project Aviary 1997, Classified, Level X, while standing in front of a crackling green screen that showed a swirling mass of redacted files, flight paths, and sinister blueprints for bird-shaped surveillance drones with tiny microphones in their beaks and laser-guided cameras where their eyes should be. And just like that, reality cracked open like a cheap plastic egg filled with paranoia and truth-smothered denial, and Nia, a 23-year-old freelance videographer from Queens who had idolized Ice Spice since her early mixtape era, sat up so fast she nearly spilled her coffee all over her cat, Strobe, who was snoozing on her lap, her heart pounding like a war drum in a tight chest as she whispered, "No. Freakin' way," while rewinding the live stream and screenshotting everything like a maniac on a mission. Nia felt her world tilt. The park walks, the beach days, the time she fed that suspiciously still pigeon a crumb of her croissant. Were they all lies? Was she being watched this whole time? Her mind was a whirlwind of flashbacks, trust issues, and sudden hyper-awareness as she glanced out her window to see 3 birds, sitting on the telephone line staring straight into her soul, or so it seemed. While the world outside seemed weirdly calm, with people blissfully scrolling through filtered selfies and cat memes, an undercurrent of tension rippled through social media, memes turning into theories, theories into movement, and Nia knew in her bones, that this wasn't just a fluke, this was a pull into something bigger, something that would either make her a hero or a hack. She called her best friend Taylor, a hardcore tech head with a conspiracy podcast and a heart of gold who immediately said, "Holy crap, I knew it," before booting up their encrypted server, while Lucy, Nia's roommate and skeptical law student who trusted nothing but case law and source citations, stormed into the living room demanding proof while waving her legal ethics textbook in the air like a sword of reason. As night fell and the livestream disappeared under mysterious DMCA strikes, Nia found herself standing at a crossroads. Dive headfirst into the shadowy realm of truth, spies, and mechanical birds with weapons for claws, or shrug it off and return to editing wedding videos for chump change. But the way her gut twisted with every coup outside her window told her she'd already stepped over the line, and whatever came next would rewire her entire understanding of life, trust, and what it meant to watch or be watched. While above her head, one of the pigeons flickered like a malfunctioning hologram and she swore she saw a serial number under its wing, and thus, without realizing it, she had taken her first step into a secret world where nothing was as it seemed and everything she knew could, at any moment, spread its wings and vanish into the shadows. As the initial shock of Ice Spice's explosive revelation began to settle like a thick fog over Nia's mind, she found herself at a terrifying crossroads where disbelief wrestled fiercely with the gnawing truth clawing at her sanity. Was it possible that for decades the very birds fluttering above, once symbols of freedom and nature's delicate balance, were nothing more than cold, calculating government drones silently watching every move? Determined not to be crushed under the weight of this new reality, Nia grabbed her phone, dialing Taylor first, whose voice crackled with nervous excitement and conspiracy-fueled adrenaline as they vowed to hack deeper into the data leak, seeking unfiltered files, flight logs, and encrypted communications that might expose the extent of the surveillance operation. Meanwhile, Lucy, the skeptic armed with legal acumen and fierce loyalty, insisted on caution, warning of the dangers of leaping into a rabbit hole that might ensnare them in government retaliation or misinformation campaigns, but even she couldn't deny the eerie flicker of a drone bird in the park windows as they debated their next steps under the dim glow of Nia's flickering lamp. As the trio plunged headlong into this shadowy world, their days blurred into nights of frantic research, clandestine meetings with whistleblowers lurking in online forums, and decoding cryptic messages left by Ice Spice herself, who had mysteriously vanished after her live stream was abruptly terminated and her social media accounts wiped clean. A ghost haunting the digital streets, fueling fear and fascination. Physical dangers quickly materialized as Nia's apartment was suddenly surveilled, odd drones appeared with unsettling frequency, and an anonymous figure, known only as the Crow, reached out with warnings that their lives were now entwined in a deadly game where trust was a luxury they couldn't afford. Emotionally, the weight crushed them. Nia wrestled with paranoia and isolation, questioning who among her friends and family might be in on the conspiracy or unknowingly complicit. Taylor battled a growing obsession that blurred the line between vigilance and madness. Lucy's rational worldview cracked under the strain of evidence defying all logic, leaving her torn between protecting her friends and exposing the truth at any cost. Each breakthrough revealed darker layers. A covert network of drone operators hidden within government agencies, bioengineered bird drones, capable of not only surveillance but subtle manipulation of crowds and emotions, and hints that the true scope of the operation reached far beyond what Ice Spice had leaked. With every answer unearthed, a dozen more questions bloomed like toxic flowers, and the trio's unity was tested by fear, doubt, and the looming specter of betrayal. The city around them hummed with an unsettling calm, but beneath the surface, a storm was gathering, forces unseen and ruthless, watching, waiting to silence the curious and crush the rebellious. And yet, amidst the chaos, a fragile resolve ignited. Nia, Taylor, and Lucy were no longer mere bystanders but the reluctant torchbearers of a truth that could shatter illusions and topple empires, if they could survive the hunt. As the sun dipped beneath the skyline, casting long shadows over the city that had become both their battlefield and prison, Nia, Taylor, and Lucy stood on the razor's edge of the final confrontation, a moment heavy with the gravity of everything they had uncovered and lost. The once intangible enemy, the omnipresent drone surveillance network controlled by a shadowy cabal known as the Directorate, was now fully revealed. A ruthless, faceless machine bent on absolute control, exploiting fear and technology to suffocate freedom beneath layers of digital puppetry and mechanical birds whose metallic hearts pulsed with silent menace. Preparing for this ultimate clash, the trio methodically gathered their arsenal. Taylor engineered EMP devices disguised as everyday gadgets to disable the drones temporarily, while Lucy pored over legal loopholes and whistleblower protections, ready to exploit any fissure in the Directorate's armor to expose their deeds publicly. Nia, fueled by a fierce blend of anger, hope, and the haunting memory of Ice Spice's sacrifice, trained herself to move stealthily, communicate in coded bursts, and steel her nerves for what could be a fight to the bitter end. Emotionally, they wrestled with fear, doubt, and the bittersweet knowledge that some sacrifices were inevitable. Friendships strained under the weight of secrets, trust fractured but not broken, and an unspoken understanding that the world might never see them as heroes but as troublemakers threatening the fragile order. The Directorate's weaknesses surfaced through painstaking investigation, a reliance on centralized command hubs vulnerable to coordinated cyber attacks, a strict hierarchy that bred internal rivalries and paranoia, and a blind spot in their drone designs, an inability to adapt quickly to human unpredictability and emotional resilience, something the trio planned to exploit by orchestrating a city-wide distraction paired with targeted strikes on the command nodes. In the quiet moments before the storm, they made crucial decisions. Nia would lead a daring infiltration to upload a virus crippling the drone network. Taylor would manage the digital battlefield from a safe house filled with humming servers and glowing monitors, and Lucy would mobilize public opinion by releasing undeniable evidence to the masses, risking everything to ignite a revolution of awareness. The tension was electric, almost suffocating, as every heartbeat echoed the stakes. One wrong move could mean capture, erasure, or worse, the erasure of truth itself. Yet beneath the dread, a fierce determination burned brighter than ever, binding them together like a lifeline in the gathering darkness, ready to shatter the illusion of the sky and reclaim the freedom that had been stolen for decades, all knowing that once they stepped into the final act, nothing would ever be the same again. When the night finally erupted into chaos, Nia, Taylor, and Lucy found themselves engulfed in a battle that transcended mere physicality, a symphony of nerves, technology, and raw human will clashing against the cold, unblinking gaze of the Directorate's mechanical army. The city's skyline fractured by flickering drone lights and the sharp burst of EMP pulses as Nia darted through shadowed alleys, her breath ragged and heart pounding like a war drum. knowing each step could be her last while. Taylor orchestrated a digital siege, fingers flying over keys as he fought to dismantle the oppressive network from his hidden lair, sweat mixing with tears of frustration and hope, and Lucy's voice crackled through encrypted channels, rallying a growing wave of awakened citizens to flood social media with damning evidence and calls for resistance, everything at stake, from personal freedom to the very soul of society. Sacrifices were brutal and immediate. Nia narrowly escaped a drone's targeting laser but lost her beloved camera, a symbol of her fight to reveal truth, while Taylor's server was infiltrated and destroyed, forcing him to rely on raw ingenuity and sheer will to keep their digital assault alive. And Lucy faced the heart-wrenching betrayal of a close confidant who turned out to be a directorate informant, leaving her questioning trust and loyalty as the psychological toll gnawed at their resolve. The defining moment came when Nia, cornered atop a rooftop surrounded by swarming drones, made the split-second decision to manually upload the virus into the central command hub, knowing full well it might fry her own neural implant. A sacrifice that could silence her forever but would cripple the drone's network and give the people their chance to reclaim their skies. As the virus spread, lights flickered, drone hums faded into eerie silence, and a wave of relief mixed with sorrow washed over the trio. Nia survived, battered but unbroken, Taylor's last-minute hack bought by sheer genius, and Lucy's public revelations ignited a firestorm of protests and legislative inquiries worldwide. The world had shifted irreversibly. The skies, once dominated by mechanical spies, grew eerily quiet before real birds, long thought extinct or myth, began to reappear, symbolizing a fragile rebirth of freedom and natural wonder. Yet, the scars ran deep. Nia emerged from the ordeal tempered by loss and newfound courage, her view of trust forever altered but her spirit unyielding. Taylor, though changed by the near loss of his mind and machinery, vowed to protect truth in all its forms. And Lucy, hardened by betrayal, dedicated herself to rebuilding legal shields against future invasions of privacy. Together, they had toppled a monstrous conspiracy but understood that vigilance was eternal, that freedom demanded sacrifice and courage beyond the headlines and whispers of conspiracy forums. Their journey had transformed them from curious seekers to reluctant heroes, bound forever by the skies they saved and the secrets they uncovered, proof that even in the darkest shadows, truth could soar. And as the dust settled over a world waking from deception, one thing was clear: the fight for freedom never truly ends. So, if you want to stay in the loop on stories that push the boundaries of reality and dive deep into the untold, don't forget to subscribe and join us on the next unbelievable adventure.